The radical left's attempts to stop this conference from taking place makes our gathering all the more important and all the more satisfying.
Here's Suella Braverman in Brussels at the National Conservatism Conference, or the NatCon as it's known, which should really be the NatCon. But anyway, the question is, should she even be attending such an event that was closed down by the local Belgian mayor where it was being held? As we will hear, the event hosted other far-right speakers.
Because many of today's speakers are respected leaders in their fields. Many of us have been democratically elected, and many of us give voice to the millions of people who live in the UK and on the European continent. If only the globalists in Brussels put as much energy into securing our borders as they did trying to gag conservatives, maybe our continent would be in a healthier state.
I think what strikes me about it, though, is that Suella Braverman was one of the keynote speakers. And I had a very quick glance at the roster of other speakers at this event today, and you've got people who are pretty unsavoury, very hardline extremist characters, people who have criticised equal marriage, for example, people who have been involved with white supremacist organisations, one individual who appears to be justifying the action of the Christchurch shooter. Why is Suella Braverman palling around with these very hardline extremist people? And why isn't Rishi Sunak stepping in to do something about it? He's so weak, he should have blocked her from going, or he should perhaps even think about taking the whip off her.
Now, today I'm going to talk about one of the most radical and harmful influences in our politics and in our societies. A radicalism that is subverting and reconfiguring our democracies by replacing the will of the people expressed through representative parliament, replacing it with the whims of unelected activist judges in Strasbourg, through ever more tendentious interpretations of, yes, you guessed it, the European Convention on Human Rights.
There were some choice characters in there, though, weren't there? I'm surprised that the Prime Minister allowed Braverman to go.
Well, the Prime Minister, we're all free to do as we wish. You know, obviously there are bounds of conduct and behaviour that we expect from Conservative MPs, but within that, free speech is a fundamental tenet of the Conservative Party, and people are able to voice their views within a legal framework, and they should be allowed to do that.
It is the task, ladies and gentlemen, of true Conservatives to successfully challenge this rights radicalism. And I tell you, it is an urgent task.
But is it appropriate that a former Home Secretary finds themselves on a stage with a speaker who's under investigation for right-wing extremism? Another speaker argued that Christchurch mosque shooter had legitimate concerns. Another speaker argued gay marriage is a destructive experiment. How can that be acceptable that Suella Braverman thinks it's OK to put herself on a stage with those sort of characters?
I don't think that should be the bar, Kay. But at many points in my political career, I'm hoping that
I would go on a stage with those people.
But I would like to disagree with them. You've got to be able to.
You would also.
I would
completely appropriate.
I want to be able
to.
I will, at many stages in my political career, discuss things with people who I fundamentally disagree with.
The ECHR is binding our hands and choking common sense decisions.
The right seem to always act the victim at any given moment, but here's an interesting incident that happened a few days ago that won't get nearly as much coverage, I imagine, as the NatCon.
I do not believe the conference should have been shut down, but it is interesting to me that we're talking about this when 3 days ago in Berlin, a big conference on Palestinian rights, which was going to have lots of a doctor speaking, an academic who's a dean at Glasgow, that was cancelled for exactly the same reason.
Exactly the same reason. Goodness. OK.
Click here for another Suella video if you dare.